have my friend Ali Hussaini with me to help with me and elaborate all of those things which I'm going to not execute to you. So let's start it with the Linux part. So first of all, what we have today, the agenda. So we have 10 topics over here which we are going to express all of those topics on today. First of all, we have the overview. Second, we will go to the Linux distributions. And third, we have the directory structure. Fourth, we have the file system. Fifth, we have the basic commands, as well as we have the IP tables, firewall, networking, and we have the package manager, apt, yum hum, and SSH keys. So let's start with the Linux overview part. So first of all, we are going to say that what is an operating system. So first thing, that what is an operating system? An operating system is a system software that directly manages a system's hardware and its resources. So what is an operating system? An operating system works as a middleman like things. That means the applications, utilities, and the hardware resources, there is a layer between both of them. The OS sits between the applications and the hardware. So the operating system is basically a layer between the application that we are all using over here and the hardware of a system or a computer. So we are talking about the Linux operating system. The Linux is an open source operating system, as we all are know. The Linux operating system, that mean an open source, that mean everyone could access it without any trouble. We don't need to purchase it, and we can also customize it with what we want to like it. So now come to the next slide. We have the layers of an Linux operating system. So the innermost layer, we have the hardware layer. As you can see over here, we have an hardware layer. Hardware layers like the devices of RAM, hard disk, and processor, etc. We also have kernel. Kernel is the second most inner layer of the Linux operating system. Or we can also say that the outer layer of an hardware is a kernel. So basically, kernel is a core of Linux-based operating system. It virtualizes the common hardware resources of the computer to provide each process with its virtual resources. Simple thing, if I'm going to say, is that whenever we are going to use the application utilities which we are using over here, just like we have the Visual Code, Slack, Meet, everything, what we are going to say, we just click on these things and we are directly using all of those resources through the application utilities. I will say those things, the application utilities. Here, the application utilities is connecting with the shell and says that I want to show this thing. And then the shell connect with the kernel, and kernel is provide the hardware resources such as RAM, processor, all of those things that this code is going to execute over here. That means if I click any of application, a code is goes to the shell, shell send it to the kernel, kernel break the code into the processes and send it to the processor through the RAM, and then it revert it back. Similarly, we have the different types of kernel. First, we have the monolithic kernel. The monolithic kernel is simple, we can say, because all of the operating system in Linux base we are using the monolithic kernel. It is a simple kernel and it have all the codes at a one place. That means we don't need to go anywhere else. Monolithic kernel, all the codes have at one place. Whenever we want a particular resources, the monolithic kernel just give at those resources. So what's the profit of monolithic kernel? Monolithic kernel is fast, but it is a huge size because of its resources. We also have the microkernels. You can see over here the microkernels. The microkernels are just opposite to the monolithic kernel. Microkernels have the small codes as compared to the monolithic kernel. But if you are talking about the microkernels, then it will provide the stability as well as they needs less hardware. Just like the Raspberry Pi we are using the microkernels over there. So the microkernels are just opposite to the monolithic kernel. But as you can see over here, we have a hybrid kernel. What is an hybrid kernel? It is a mixture of monolithic and the microkernels both. But what we are going to say that hybrid kernel is similar to the monolithic kernel. But it has some difference if we are going to say in the types of the kernel differences. We also have the exokernels, which is the very lightweight, we can say. And it's also have the high level of hardware abstraction we are using over here. It's just written in the some side. I will only say this. I could not express this. So let's come to the next point. What we have the shell. Oh, we completed the kernel. Now we are going to the shell. What we have in shell part, it is an interface to the kernel which hides the complexity of the kernel functions from the user. So the shell is nothing but it hides the complexity of the kernel function for the user. It takes command from the user and executes the kernel functions. It takes the command from the user and execute the kernel function. It is a level between the kernel and the applications. Now we can see over here. Okay, sorry. So now it is a super user. This super user could access the all of things which we want to use in the kernel through the shell. All right, there is something that I want to show you. That's why I was. So now we are talking about the system utility. What is a system utility? System utilities are nothing but the applications utilities or the applications which we are using in our operating system. Just like I just show you, this Visual Code is also as an application, third party we can say, Slack, Google Meet, all of those things are the applications. So these are the application utilities. So that is a overview part of an Linux operating system. Now we are coming to the next topic, the Linux distributions. So first, what we have, the main distributions of Linux. We have Ubuntu operating system and Rookie Linux, Red Hat, Debian on Red Hat that my brother says before this PPT that we have two types of major operating system. First is the Linux base and the Debian base. That is correct. And all of those things are just inherited the main thing of those two major Linux based distributions. We also have so many distributions in Linux. First, we have this diagram, which we were saying the table. What is called? The elementary, what is called? Some type of table, you can say.
Got
So,
it.
yeah. So this is a Linux min. That means yellow is with the Debian and Ubuntu operating system. Blue is a ARG, and orange is Red Hat and Slackwave and many more. You can see it in here when I post the PPT on the web. And now I'm just wants to call my colleague to hand over all of those more things that has directory structure, file systems, and basic commands. So Ali Hussein, please come and take all of those things.